Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping. Julio Rivera here, the Julio Rivera Show for this Thursday, July 14th, 2016. One of the most historically significant periods in the history of not only United States politics, but of the Republican Party in particular. Vice presidential speculation. It's been going on for a couple of months. Depending on what you read, who you believe, what you hear, what you want to hear, Mike Pence is the prohibitive favorite to be announced tomorrow as Donald Trump's running mate. Not coincidentally, the deadline for deciding whether or not to run for governor is tomorrow. Newt Gingrich has dropped out from Fox News due to the fact that he is being speculated as a potential vice president. Depending on what direction you want to go, who knows? I wrote an article last week that I thought was pretty interesting. And so did a few other of you guys regarding the possibility of choosing Cruz as a vice presidential candidate. I make the argument that the last time the Republican Party ran its top two vote getters in the primary, it led to two straight landslide victories for the Reagan-Bush ticket and 12 consecutive years of a Republican White House. What a novel concept. I mean, you got Bob Dole chose Jack Kemp, who's a good enough guy, hadn't ran in the primary. There hadn't been a referendum with the American people as to whether or not they would support Jack Kemp for an executive position. See, that's what people miss. Same with John McCain lost with Sarah Palin. Who was Sarah Palin before she was appointed as the vice presidential nominee by John McCain and the Republicans in 2008? Paul Ryan. A little bit of juice as a younger congressman. Some people were intrigued by the pick. He was supposedly the bone that was thrown at the Tea Party, because they may have thought that Romney wasn't conservative enough. Why not go with someone who's proven? Someone bringing 7 million plus almost 8 million primary voters to the party. It makes perfect sense. It makes so much sense that the Republicans won't do it. Because if it makes sense, why do it? Why not just let the Democrats keep ruling things? Listen, the majority of the Republican Party has gone progressive. I made this argument on an episode I did back in December on the heels of the omnibus bill. We had gross, egregious examples of pork barrel spending. That bill lies on Paul Ryan and the establishment Republicans, more so than even the Democrats. Because last time I checked, we have a Republican House and we have a Republican Senate. What happened to the momentum of 2014? As I take my first water break on a very hot Thursday evening, it's the Julio Rivera Show, hashtag Conservarican on Lanterns Radio Network. And on the other side of the break, we're going to talk a little bit more before we get into our first guest. Stay tuned.
Find the Lanterns Radio Network on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes.
They can intercept this transmission at any time, so I'll be brief. The fight is here. The time is now. Go behind enemy lines.
Player FM, YouTube, and other social media by searching keyword Lanterns Buzz or Lanterns Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Adam Marr, Apache helicopter pilot and COO of the Warrior Angels Foundation, a 501c3 with a superior treatment for our veterans suffering with TBI and PTS. We have found a solution that pinpoints and treats the underlying condition and are providing that solution for veterans across the nation, but we need your help. Go to waftbi.org to find out more. That's waftbi.org.
You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping. I think that's going to be the new thing. The Julio Rivera Show is on and popping. Because why not? We have a great show. Tonight we actually really have a fantastic show. Joining me, we have my buddy, my best friend actually, and somebody that I talk politics with on a daily basis. Rob Spade will be calling in later on into the show, and we're going to discuss vice presidents. We're going to discuss delegates. We're going to discuss the news of the day. We also have a good buddy of mine from Politichicks, Mona Salama, will be here blessing us with her presence as we discuss in detail the vice presidential selection, which is really one of the bigger news stories outside of the delegate situation. Whether or not any of that has enough momentum, my worry, and listen, I was one of the first people have accused me of somehow sliding over to Trump because I wrote a couple of articles that were not hit pieces. I don't think I was very complimentary, so to speak, to Mr. Trump in these articles, but they were just based on the fact and really where we stand at this point. The delegate movement only gives me a worry because of what if the establishment tries to then hijack the process? I don't want to get Kasich installed. I don't want to get Romney installed. Although I'd probably take Romney over Trump. I don't think it's right. And he lost last time. I only believe in what the delegates want to do as long as it's by pure intent. If they feel that Donald Trump is too dangerous for the Republican Party and to run in a national ticket, then the delegates should, because they're better informed, they're members of their state party for the most part and people that are politically active that know the issues. Where's the fear in that? I mean, the only time that the delegates have been bound by state rules, by whatever they signed with their state GOPs in recent history, in modern history, was the 1976 election, which Gerald Ford, feeling the threat of the Reagan Revolution, did everything he could to hold on to his delegates to prevent a Reagan nomination, which led to 4 years of futility under Jimmy Carter. That's what happened. Some people would say that the Reagan Revolution, they would liken it to what Senator Cruz was trying to accomplish. I don't want the effort of the Never Trump, Only Cruz crowd to somehow play into the hands and be used by the establishment to anoint their golden boy, whoever they may decide that is. That's my fear. with the Never Trump, only Cruz movement is that we don't bite ourselves, in the ass and wind up with somebody that we didn't want or isn't really, because if we're going to compromise, there's going to be the Republican Party in that scenario, just in the court of public opinion, will take a hit. I'm realistic about it. As much as I want Cruz and don't want Trump, I understand that if anyone other than Donald J. Trump is nominated, the perception is that it's a splintered, broken, dangerous party, and independents should stay away from it. That's honest. That's real. Now I'll probably get people telling me, you're on Donald Trump's side, or something like that. But that's not what I'm saying at all. I mean, I want to win in November. I want to win the right way. And the right way very well may be the delegates choosing Cruz. You just have to make sure that there's enough support from those delegates. They did their ground game. Their ground game was the best, second to none. So they may have 1237. Trump may have 1237. Nobody really knows until that first vote is taken. And it can't come soon enough. I mean, all this, you know what, Donald Trump, you can't wait until the convention to choose your vice presidential nominee. He hasn't even been nominated. Some people would argue Cruz did the same thing with Carly, but it was a strategic, I guess, campaign decision to go ahead and with California down the road. I think that was the reason why they did it. That's why I was ultimately more shocked than anyone when Cruz suspended. Like, why suspend under that, under those circumstances? I still don't understand it. We got Mike Pence to talk about, Newt Gingrich, Chris Christie. Not that I think Christie has a shot, but I don't know. He may come up, he may not. We've got delegates to talk about. We've got Black Lives Matter to talk about. And we'll delve into all those subjects as we progress. On the other side of the break, we will have the organizer of an answer matter, Day of Rage. We should all get involved. And coming up next will be the host of The Intersection on Lanterns Radio Network, my good friend, Andrew Chavarrilla. Go nowhere.
Hi, I'm Adam Marr, Apache helicopter pilot and COO of the Warrior Angels Foundation, a 501c3 with a superior treatment for our veterans suffering with TBI and PTS. We have found a solution that pinpoints and treats the underlying condition and are providing that solution for veterans across the nation, but we need your help. Go to waftbi.org to find out more. That's waftbi.org.
Politics got you down? Is your team in last place? Is your significant other sleeping with your neighbor? Well, cheer up. The Julio Rivera Show is on. Deal with your problems afterwards.
Find the Lanterns Radio Network on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes.
They can intercept this transmission at any time, so I'll be brief. The fight is here. The time is now. Go behind enemy lines.
Player FM, YouTube, and other social media by searching keyword Lanterns Buzz or Lanterns Radio Network.
You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
All right, and popping, and we are here with Andrew Chavarrilla of The Intersection, a great show on Lanterns Radio Network. If you haven't been listening in, you gotta check him out. And he's the organizer, or one of the organizers behind the Day of Love, a response to Black Lives Matter and their Day of Rage, their misguided Day of Rage. And here to talk all about it and fill you in on it if you don't know the details, my man, Andrew Chavarrilla. How are you today, buddy?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me on, man.
I'm so excited to have you on. Every time you're on, it's a great conversation. Now, the country is on fire. We have a false social justice movement which is built on and predicated on a lie, and it's using false statistics. The statistics don't actually even back up their narrative that they're trying to push. Unfortunately, the mainstream media, which is mostly liberal and progressive and buys into all of Obama's nonsense, is riding along with it and pushing it forward. Now tell me, I want to hear your thoughts on this, and tell us about what's going on tomorrow, which is very important.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say you're right. Black Lives Matter is predicated and it's based on an entire fabrication of hands up, don't shoot. That we know that to have been a false narrative. The witness lied. But this is where this movement has come from. And the reality is what has happened with this movement is it's done everything but bring an acknowledgement to the fact that Black lives do matter. Okay. I'm not going to pretend, that racism does not exist, because we know it does. I know it does firsthand. I'm in an interracial marriage. However, just because it exists doesn't mean you play into its hand, right? That is not the narrative that we saw from leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King in the 60s. And that is, in fact, one of the things that he said was, hate does not drive out hate. Only love can do that. And that's where Day of Love comes from. In 1969, during the Civil Rights Movement, there was a Day of Rage that was called out. And Anonymous, the hacker collective, earlier this week actually issued a call to action for a Day of Rage in a lot of major cities. In fact, if you go to lanterns.buzz, you can actually find the list of that, if you, the article's at the top of the page. But the reality is, when it comes down to it, the Black Lives Matter movement, everywhere they go and everything that they touch seems to cripple and decay. And there seems to be destruction and rioting and violence, and that is not what we need as a nation. So one of the things that we decided to do, in fact, I didn't decide to do this. One of my friends over at the Blaze Radio, Jonathan Doon, who hosts the show Freedom Disciple on the Blaze Radio Network, and the Blaze columnist and contributor Mary Ramirez actually reached out to me and asked if I would start off Day of Love. We wanted to combat it. In fact, that's the hashtag Day of Love, and started out on my radio show tomorrow, where we're going to talk about doing a couple of things. In fact, what we're going to be talking about, and the whole purpose of this, Julio, is because American lives matter and all lives matter. French lives matter right now. All lives matter. Everybody that is created, even if you don't believe that you are, everybody is made in the likeness and image of God, and you are God's creation, whether you believe in him or not. And because I believe that, you merit my respect. So we want to talk about all lives matter. Americans of all faith and background can join us this Friday in fasting. Also make it a day of prayer and scripture reading and sharing stories of history, hope, and love. I'll be sharing tomorrow on my radio show some of my favorite stories from Dr. Martin Luther King, and sharing some hope and some love and some scriptural insight on what unity really looks like. And then we're asking people to get involved on social media by actually changing the narrative and sharing positive messages that seek reconciliation. You can do this in a number of ways. You can change your social media profile picture to share your support for Day of Love. You can visit my Facebook page or any other, a lot of Facebook pages actually in the conservative movement and activists have picked it up. And you can change your Facebook, Twitter, or your Facebook profile picture and your cover photo. Share some scripture memes. Are actually found at freedomdisciple.com. or you can make up your own. Share your favorite scriptures and use hashtag Day of Love, especially between the hours of 5 and 9 p.m. Eastern. That's when the Black Lives Matter and Anonymous Collective have called for this Day of Rage to engage from 5 to 9 p.m. Eastern. So we're really wanting to flood it over, and we're wanting Day of Love to combat this movement, this Day of Rage movement. Share stories and articles online based around faith, history, and love. Don't share anything divisive. I know it's really easy right now in 2016, but tomorrow, just make it a day about unity. Make it a day to reach out to someone that you even disagree with online and offer a positive message. And more important, in that same light, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, when we kick off Day of Love, it'll be the full combating, 12 hours of combating Day of Rage online. You can actually listen when we start this show on at intersectionradioshow.com.
Awesome.
So that's the summation of it.
Let me ask you a question, right? And I'm just gonna bring up a couple of statistics here. Al Sharpton, in an advisory role, has visited the White House a number of times, over 30 times. Barack Obama, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch have all given legitimacy not legitimacy to people like us, but legitimacy in the mainstream media to movements like Black Lives Matter. Eric Holder went to Ferguson as a show of solidarity. We've had, Barack Obama this week with the controversial and ridiculous statement that Absolutely. It's easier for kids to get their hands on illegal firearms than it is for a book. How much blame for our race relations, really going back 50 years, do you put on this administration?
I look at this administration, and I can tell you I did not vote for Barack Obama either time, right? But I look at the potential that he had as a president, as a unifier, as the first black president. It was historic, and he had a great opportunity. But I think now in the past 8 years that he has been in office, we have been more racially divided and segregated than we have been. We've done more by way of regress for race relations than we have in progress. And when you have racial poverty pimps like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson running their mouth, and guys like Eric Holder and even the president of the United States who get up and say Trayvon Martin could have been my kid, and identifying with thuggery, you do not foster an environment or a national sense of unity. You foster more division.
Mm-hmm. And I've been making the point and trying to drive it home that a lot of this was predicated off of, in the 1960s, the policies of Lyndon Johnson.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this Great Society, these entitlement programs which have de-incentivized and destroyed black families staying together. People at this point are dependent on the government more than they are dependent on themselves. Because that's the one thing with liberty and freedom. There's a responsibility that comes with it. But if you take advantage of that responsibility, you can have much better than the government can ever give you.
One of the things that I always tell people, when people ask me, because I am, if you want to use the hyphens, I'm a Mexican American, and people ask me how, as a Mexican American, I can be a Republican. And one of the things that I tell them is I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. Start your own business. Whether it's successful or whether it fails, you will be a Republican by the end of your experience.
You're absolutely right, man. I'm right there with you, because I'm the same way.
But I know that I'm going to probably catch some crap for saying this, especially because I'm in ministry and things like that, but I really don't care. If you listen to my show, you'll find out how flippant I can be sometimes. But here's the thing. The party of segregation and racism, the Democratic Party, as it was, as you mentioned, LBJ and others, the party of racism, division, and the party of slavery, which is the Democratic Party, in 8 years has successfully taken over at re-enslaving a formerly enslaved people. It just doesn't look the same. It looks like the form of government dependency.
Exactly.
You can't, once you fall into the pit of government dependency on a full-time basis, it's hard to crawl your way back to freedom. you've shackled yourselves to the chain of government, and you've effectively enslaved yourself again. And it's not freedom, it's not liberty, it's slavery.
Exactly. Economic slavery is what I refer to it as. And listen, the civil rights movement is an important movement, but the civil rights movement and the growth of big government are not one and the same. It definitely is not, and you look at things, and this is where I get angry, because you have a disproportionate by percentage number of people in that community that are government dependent. They can break away from it, and if anything, they have a foundation to go ahead and do this. People came to this country through Ellis Island, whether they were Jewish, whether they were Italian, whether they were Irish, with nothing but a couple of bucks and the clothes on their back, and they came to America and worked hard. They suffer for a generation, but they had no safety net. I don't understand why this community allows themselves to be economically enslaved, where they have every incentive. People, as much as America has become self-hating under these progressives, this is the best country on earth.
Simply put, I mean, people don't realize and understand what it was that Dr. Martin Luther King was actually fighting for. When he was fighting for equal rights, he was also fighting for the equal rights to have the government no longer intrude and impose upon their lives. He was a limited government individual, and he was an individual that believed that prosperity and liberty first and foremost came from God, and all they wanted was the advantage and the vantage point to actually compete. It wasn't so that the government would be able to control them in the aspects of liberty. It was just so that they could have liberty. That's what the civil rights movement was all about. And at the end of the day, the civil rights movement was also about unity. White people marched together hand in hand with black people, and so on and so forth. One of the things that people don't talk about is last year, Glenn Beck and Pastor Rob Lowe actually held the largest unity march since the 1960s in Birmingham, Alabama. Over 20,000 people showed up, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, it didn't matter. They showed up, they locked arms, and they marched for all lives to matter. And as they did those things, do you know not one national media outlet covered it? Instead, they covered a Black Lives Matter protest rally in St. Louis, Missouri that was only attended by 300 people.
Well, like I said, I mean, if it doesn't fit into the narrative of the left, this is what we're going to get. And they're going to continue to drive it home. I guarantee you, as great a movement and a great what you're trying to accomplish tomorrow, and you've got some good people supporting it, and I'm definitely going to support it and do everything I can to pitch in. And everybody that's listening, participate in the Day of Love, because it's very important that you do. But I mean, I guarantee you that it will not make as much noise as this false movement that's going to be there tomorrow.
It can, and here's how it can. Let me just share this with your listeners, and then I got to go because I have another interview to do. But the reality is, it only takes, because of the advent of Facebook and it's the way social media works, if you can get 7 of your friends to support this movement and tell them to get 7 of their friends to support this movement, you can effectively change the entire narrative on social media. It only takes 7 people sharing something and their 7 friends sharing something else to make something go viral. So we can actually do this with the power of 7. So let's do it tomorrow. Use hashtag Day of Love, change your profile pictures, and if you want to find out more, check out my Facebook pages.
Hey, thank you so much, Andrew Chavarrilla. God bless and good luck tomorrow.
Man, God bless, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All righty, no problem. On the other side of the break, we've got Mona Salama coming up, so don't go anywhere.
Hi, I'm Adamar, Apache helicopter pilot and COO of the Warrior Angels Foundation, a 501c3 with a superior treatment for our veterans suffering with TBI and PTS. We have found a solution that pinpoints and treats the underlying condition and are providing that solution for veterans across the nation, but we need your help. Go to waftbi.org to find out more. That's waftbi.org.
You're listening to the #1 source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. #Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And popping. In just a moment, we'll have Mona Salama from Politichicks. And just to build on what Andrew was saying, we really do need to support this movement. We can't let these narratives be hijacked by Anonymous, by Black Lives Matter. It's insanity. It's insanity. It's built on a lie. It's built on a lie. And as long as we continue to perpetuate that lie, we're never going to get the change that Barack Obama supposedly promised 7.5 years ago. And joining me now, my buddy Mona Salama of Politichicks. How are you this evening? Oh, she's there, but she's not there. We'll get her back in just a moment. As I'm trying to, let me see here. This third time's the charm. How are you? Problem with recording? I don't know what's going on here. We seem to be having an issue, a technical issue. Let me see what's going on here. Just give me one moment and we'll be right back.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
Still trying to figure out what's going on here. And hopefully we'll get this back up in just a moment. But we were going to talk about the vice presidential sweepstakes. And we'll try this again. And it's still not working. And I don't know why. And I can't answer as to why this is happening. But it is happening. But sometimes when you do live radio, you got to deal with this kind of stuff. So we're just running with the same subject matter. Mike Pence is the front runner and actually the favorite right now. If you're a betting man, to be chosen as the vice presidential candidate to run alongside Donald Trump on the 2016 election for the Republicans, should he be nominated, and no one knows for sure. We've got the Free the Delegates movement, which actually has picked up a lot of steam. We don't know what the true loyalties of a lot of those people are until they actually make their opinion known.
9, 8, 9. 6,
okay, I'm trying to get Mona a different way so we can bring her in here. I actually really want to discuss this with her because she's been covering this election the entire time. She's done a great job. She's been tweeting and writing articles. All right, hold on. I'm going to have to tell her to stop. I'm calling you now. All right. I love it when this happens on live radio. But this is what happens. All right. And we're here. And in just a moment, we're going to have a guest, apparently. And here she comes. I'm doing this real ghetto. That's what happens when you have technical difficulties, but we overcome them. And how are you this evening, Mona?
Good. I was about to come to Jersey and kill you.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm terrible. I did. This is what happens when you don't have a producer. You're not a techie. I'm not a techie type person. So I just do this, and sometimes things don't work.
Come on.
I know. I'm trying my best.
6 months. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go.
But listen, I wanna talk to you a little bit. Listen, you've been covering this the entire time. You've been out there on the trail from the very beginning of the primary process. You've seen the crowds. You've spoken to the people. You've spoken to the candidates. You're right in the mix. Tomorrow, Donald Trump is making a very important decision in the history of the Republican Party, especially
No,
if...
have you heard the news? He canceled that.
He did? Okay, well, thank you. When is he going to be making his announcement?
He canceled that because of the attacks in Paris. He said that due to the attacks in Paris, he thought that it was right to cancel the event. And that, like, there's no further information about what's going to happen with tomorrow's conference, when it's going to happen. But they're going to keep us posted.
Wow. Now, let me ask you a question.
Where have you been, Julio?
I'm sorry, you know what I was doing? I was doing 10 million other things because that's just kind of the way life goes sometimes. But let me ask you a question right now regarding the viability of a ticket being winnable on a national platform, a national format. Like, we're going to have to try to win independence and whatnot. Where do your loyalties lie as far as who would you like to see Donald Trump appoint as the vice president?
Well, I wanted either Susana Martinez or Ted Cruz to balance it out with, like, the Hispanic and the, the woman part or whatever. But he already had his full pick. It was Chris Christie, it was Mike Pence, it was Newt Gingrich, and it was Jeff Sessions. But he narrowed it down to two yesterday. It was between Newt Gingrich and Mike Pence. And then today it came out that it was officially Mike Pence. Mike Pence can win over the grassroots, the Tea Party people, and the evangelicals. At the same time, he can win the establishment. So it's a win-win for the Republican Party. If it's a Pence-Trump ticket, we win Florida, we win Ohio, we win Pennsylvania, and we win the rest of the state, we can win the presidency. But
listen, isn't that the same argument that people made about Romney, that Romney can get evangelicals, that he supposedly was conservative enough to win conservatives? Isn't this a lot of the same? I mean, I'm a Tea Party hardcore conservative, and there's things that I like about Mike Pence, but there's things I don't like about Mike Pence. He's not a lock to bring over a lot of those never-Trump conservatives that have vowed not to vote for Trump under any circumstances.
Well, okay, but the never-Trump movement, we're just, at the end of the day, the Trump people have gave it up on them. It is what it is. We're worried about the independents, and we're worried about getting Bernie Sanders people because now they're pissed off about, Bernie endorsing Hillary. So that's our main focus. And at the same time, making sure the Republicans come out like they did in the primary and come out full swinging. Because remember, in 2012, the Republicans didn't come out full swinging when he promised that it was going to be a Romney-Rubio ticket, and it became a Romney-Paul ticket. Ryan ticket.
Yeah. You know what? That could have saved that ticket, but the other thing that could have saved that ticket was Mitt Romney behaving as an angry American that was fed up with Obama and his nonsense. Benghazi was laid to him, unfortunately, obviously, but it was laid to him on a silver platter, and he did nothing to capitalize on that momentum.
Exactly. The Romney that we're seeing today should have been the Romney we saw 4 years ago. For Romney to attack another Republican and going against the 11th Amendment, Josh should not attack another Republican, is the reason why, the outsider people, the people who's never voted a day of their life, the independents who came out when it was an open primary, and the Republicans who see Trump as the answer to the solution, coming out full swing, and that's why he won 14 million votes in the primary alone. And
yeah, he did, but
you see with the evangelicals, they stay at home. There's Cruz said once, it's 80 million evangelicals. How many came out to vote for him? 10, 15? And then you see, in the primary, over, 6 million came out for Trump, and that's how Trump was able to get Cruz in evangelical states, such as South Carolina, such as in Georgia, and other states.
But let me ask you a question, right? Do you think that because, the people talk about the delegates changing in real time, regular voters change in real time, and if you have Donald Trump, saying some of the things that he said regarding Planned Parenthood doing important work, regarding his position on the Target bathroom controversy, do you think he lost any of those evangelicals since Super Tuesday?
No. I think that, you're always it's always election season. You're always going to win some. You're going to always lose some. Remember, Trump supporters are diehard supporters. Same thing with Cruz supporters and same thing with another Trump. We're diehard. We're there to the end. Now we see it's going to be Trump versus Hillary. So we got to make sure that not only do we keep our base going for the next 4 months, but we also make sure that we bring out the independents. We bring out the people that hate Hillary Clinton. We bring out the Democrats that are so disgusted by Hillary Clinton. We bring out, the Republicans that never will vote and make sure they come out in full swinging. And then, like I said, if we win in these key battleground states, it's game over for Hillary.
Yeah.
And you can see in the recent poll shows that, over 2 weeks ago, he was down by 7. Now he's tied against Hillary. And in the key battleground states, he's up.
But I look at it like this. It was two separate populist movements. I think that Trump had his own, and I believe that Bernie Sanders had his own. I think that you have one populist movement that actually made it to the ticket, which is Trump's, which maybe helps him. But it also splinters his own party because so much of the Republican Party, the far majority of true registered Republicans, about 2/3 of them rejected Trump. So you have to consider that the fact that Hillary Clinton, at the very least, has the support of a unified Democratic Party. Because for the most part, the Bernie movement was separate from the mainstream Democrats. And the mainstream Democrats generally walk in lockstep with each other. So, I mean, and we've seen that in Congress. That's why the Democrats did more to accomplish their agenda when they had Congress than the Republicans have been able to do since they've gotten control of both parts of the House or both parts of Congress in 2014. So I think Hillary Clinton is still very formidable. I think that Donald Trump choosing anyone other than, I really think the only guy that can win it for him is Cruz. But, I mean, obviously that has nothing, and that actually has nothing to do with my personal feelings for Cruz. I just think you have to look at the fact that Cruz brought a lot of people out in this election cycle. Pence isn't known nationally as well. Newt Gingrich is a better choice to me, Newt Gingrich, because he has more national recognition, but he's also a guy that's been out of the loop for a long time.
I don't agree with you whatsoever because at the end of the day, 2/3 of the Republican Party didn't come out to vote for Donald Trump. Remember, it was a very heavy party ticket. It was, running against 6 other people. There was Trump running against 4 other people, then 3, then 2. Then 3, and then that was it. Those 2/3 of them, you're saying, are the Republicans. They wanted somebody else. Now that Trump is being blessed next week with the nomination, I think 1/3 of those Republicans are going to come and see that Hillary Clinton is not the nominee. They're going to make sure she does not win.
I don't know. I think we're going to see the delegates do something. Mm-hmm.
The delegate movement it's nonsense. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. Sorry to bust your bubbles, Julio. It's just a waste of time. I think it's just them having a tantrum, a cardio tantrum, and it's just them going to, use social media and use their mouths to have a cardio tantrum and just blow steam. I mean, they're just gonna either stay home on the general election or vote for Gary Johnson. The problem is just to make sure that Gary Johnson is below 10%, so he's not in the debate stage, so Donald Trump can embarrass her in the debate stage. Because remember, Donald Trump is not a robot like Hillary Clinton. He knows what she's going to say the next thing. Donald Trump is unpredictable. So if we could keep her on her toes and not know what Donald Trump is going to say next, he's going to embarrass her come the debate. So 3 debates are coming up in September, October, 2 in October. So going forward, I think that we have to win over the independents. We have to make sure our Republicans come out full swinging. If Pence is in the ticket, it's going to help him win in the rustway state. It's going to help him generate a lot of the evangelicals that are, evangelical Democrats, evangelical independents to swing over to Donald Trump. This is a winnable ticket.
I disagree. I'm sorry, Mona. But I'm sorry, Mona. I really do disagree. But we're gonna see what happens next week.
I have
actually,
$100 bet. If you lose, how about this? When Donald Trump becomes the nominee, my birthday is in 3 weeks. You have to get me a Louis Vuitton bag. That's it. End the question. I'm sorry. God forbid that Trump loses, I would buy your daughter something expensive.
All right. What did I have to do again?
If Trump wins the presidency, my birthday's in 3 weeks. You have to get me a very, I'm high maintenance. I have Christian Louboutin shoes and I have Louis Vuitton bags. Either one of those. And if, God forbid, Trump loses, I buy your daughter something expensive.
All right, how about this? We switch it to a nice birthday card either way, but I got you. It's your birthday, and it's going to be a party. Mona Salama, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Politics contributor, and you're going to be in Cleveland, right? You're going to be in Cleveland?
Yes, politics reporter, not contributor. I write every day.
Mm-hmm.
And, yes, I will be in Cleveland. I'm leaving Saturday night.
All right, fantastic. On the other side of the break, we're going to have Rob Spade. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the number one source for political, pop culture, and sports talk on the radio. The Julio Rivera Show. Hashtag Conservarican. With no fuck left to give.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit it!
We are controlling transmission.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Julio Rivera Show is on.
And I want to thank my two guests that I've had so far today, Andrew Chavarrilla and Mona Salama. They did a great job. They were absolutely fantastic. Tomorrow is the Day of Love. Please make sure that you participate in that. I think it's very important that we combat the hatred and divisiveness that has infiltrated our country. The narratives that have been pushed by mainstream media and elements at the highest level of our government. The police are not our enemy. They aren't. There's over 1.1 million police officers in this country that didn't shoot any black people yesterday. That helped investigate crimes, keep people safe. What's the problem? What is wrong with our country? Have we really gotten to this point? Have we turned the clocks back to the 1960s? Riots in the streets. Police being ambushed and shot. Besides the 5 officers that were killed in Dallas, unfortunately, we had a police officer in St. Louis last week on Thursday evening, or actually, I believe it was early Friday, that was ambushed and shot. Critical but stable condition. He's fine. In Valdosta, Georgia, police officer ambushed. This is just like the case that happened in New York City, where we had, unfortunately, 2 police officers killed a couple of years back, ambushed in their vehicle. This has to end. America needs to take its medicine, and its medicine is a hard dose of the truth. And the truth is, this narrative being perpetuated by the media is going to continue this vicious cycle that we're in of self-victimization. And you know what that's done? That's honestly destroyed the prospects of an entire race of people. Not an entire race of people. There's people that live above it, live above the big government system. But I want to see blacks doing much better than they are. I watched an interview last night with Young Buck from G Unit. He was interviewed by TMZ. He made a song that was a call to action, you can say, for violence against police officers. That's pure hate speech. You want to show me statistics that prove the narrative? Knock yourself out. You're not going to find them. Because it's not happening. It's not a widespread problem. Was it 60, 70 years ago? Of course, maybe. I don't have the actual statistics, but we were a different country then. We're a country that's now elected 2 consecutive times a black man as president. And we've allowed him to go on his temper tantrums, the social justice nonsense, the Islamification nonsense. And I'm being made aware, I guess in real time, that apparently there was something that went on this evening, and I'm going to go ahead for the listeners and get some information here. Apparently there was some type of an attack in Paris that's either ongoing. We obviously had the one that happened, certainly recently. Let me see here. At least 77 dead in France truck attack. Oh my God. Another attack. Jihadists. I'm going to go into this from the Philippine Daily Inquirer 43 minutes ago. For those who have been listening, and like myself, were completely unaware that this was going on, and my sincerest apologies as I was preparing to go on air, and I actually was on another show just before this. At least 80 dead now, it says here in Paris, or France truck attack. And I'm waiting for this to open up. A truck loaded with weapons and hand grenades drove onto a sidewalk for more than a mile, plowing through Bastille Day revelers who... Oh, this is from Philippine news station, so I'm sorry. I'm trying to read the way that they're writing this. Revelers who'd gathered to watch fireworks in the French resort city of Nice, I believe that's late Thursday. At least 80 people killed before the police killed the driver. Wow. Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve says 80 people have died on the attack and 18 in critical condition. Numerous others wounded. The identification of the criminal is in progress, he said, refusing to confirm reports that an ID card was found after police shot the truck driver. We're in a war with terrorists who want to strike us at any price and in a very violent way, the minister said. Prosecutor Jean-Michel Prete described a horrific scene with bodies strewn about along the roadway. And Sylvie Tofen, a press officer with the local media, said the truck driver ran over people on a long trip down the sidewalk, along a building that fronts the beach. Wasim Boulay, a native, spoke to the AP nearby, where he said he saw a truck drive into the crowd. There was carnage on the road, bodies everywhere. Prosecutor's office opening up an investigation for murder, attempted murder, in an organized group linked to a terrorist enterprise. Well, there you have it, people. All this talk of xenophobia against refugees, that it's only a small minority of Muslims that cause this. Let me ask you a question. Where are those liberal mathematicians when they want to talk about police shooting statistics? They're gone. They disappear. It's ridiculous. 10,000 refugees we signed on to take last year. Hillary Clinton, presumptive Democratic nominee, has stated, and you can look up the quote, she's ready to take 65,000. Europe is economically on fire due to the failed policies of the European Union. That globalist, socialist movement has failed economically the people of Europe. Their failed policy of inclusion, of being on the front line of wanting to take all these refugees in, is biting them in the ass in increasingly dangerous ways. It's not a gun control problem. It's not a policing problem. It's not a xenophobia problem. It's all a common sense problem. You don't bring people in that you can't vet. The caliphate of ISIS has grown into a monstrous, much larger than the size of a collection of states of the Union. They have access to the infrastructure. They can produce documentation. James Comey, who I can't stand right now because of the Hillary Clinton situation, came out and said very early on, there was no way that we can vet these people. It's the FBI director. So you're telling me that Barack Obama, the community organizer, with all his radical ties, and don't pretend like they don't exist, because they do, knows better than the FBI director? We have, on the heels of what occurred in Orlando, and with these recent police shootings involving armed suspects, a pronounced movement by the left. The gun grabbers are out in force. What's it going to look like when we start having these attacks on domestic soil against an unarmed populace? How much more devastating will these terrorist attacks be when they hit American soil? You know, a couple of years ago, Pam Geller had famously had the Draw Muhammad contest, which prompted a thread on social media, which prompted an assailant, I think it was either one or two, to come out and try to shoot up the event. You know what happened? They messed with Texas. And in Texas, people know how to use guns. It's a very gun-friendly state. And someone with a handgun was able to prevent a tragedy. I think America needs to get back to the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights that allow us to protect ourselves from threats, not only from potential robbers, criminals, terrorists, but also tyranny against government. And that's what it was written in for. And ultimately, you can try to convince me otherwise, but you won't be able to, that it's a safety issue and whatnot. Bullshit. The government wants to take our guns to subjugate us. At the end of the day, that's all it's ever been about. And I can't wait to see how Obama tries to politicize what just occurred. And he's got plenty of things that are going on right now in the periphery. There's the dissension amongst the Republican Party. There's the Black Lives Matter movement. There's the police. But there's a special place in his heart, being the scumbag, quite frankly, that he is, to take these horrific tragedies and try to benefit from them politically. Listen, folks, I'll be on the Julie Briggs show on Sunday. I'll be on Freedom on Deck with my man Chet Martin this Sunday. Unfiltered with Dennis Michael Lynch this coming Monday. We're going to be discussing all of it. The conventions. Black Lives Matter. Do me a favor, everyone who's listening. Participate tomorrow in the Day of Love. because it's what America needs right now. God bless you all. I'm Julio Rivera. Thank you for listening this evening.